Okay, so this is the Scapeshift deck that I'm going to be playing with tonight. It's from a Moto Daily played by Osman Osgani, which is a recognizable Moto name, at least to me. I think this is the best deck to be playing at this upcoming GP. I think it does the combo control thing better than the Twin decks do, and I think that it's pretty resilient to hate, pretty resilient to the mid-range decks. And the decks that really prey on it, like Affinity, just don't exist right now. So I'm a pretty big fan. The list that I would want to play is a little different. You can actually, if you look at the first match where I play against Jarvis, you playing Kiki Pod, you'll actually see that list, which unfortunately did not get registered for the daily event for version 4 reasons or something. It's 50-50 that I made a mistake and 50-50 that the new client did. So blame it on who you want to blame it on. But the list that I'd want to play follows some of the rules that Gabe Carlton Barnes, when he won a PTQ, actually, I'm recording this on the 21st, so a month ago today, in June, with a Scapeshift deck designed by him and Conrad Kolos. They laid out some ground rules, and they were pretty good, so I figured I'd follow most of them. The rules they said were everything should be a cantrip they can, and play 26 lands. And you'll see this list has 25 lands and has Izzet Charms that aren't cantrips. Not my decision. Copied the list a little bit. I think that Izzet Charm's fine, but I really just don't want to have that kind of effect that puts me down cards in the deck. Like even Lightning Bolt doesn't seem super exciting, except unless it's like a super powerful sideboard card like Anger of the Gods. But the card I'd rather have here is Electrolyze, because that card can also deal 2 damage to my opponent to put them from 20 to 18, which is 7 lands in play for Scapeshift, so 6 Valakut triggers instead of 8 lands in play with Scapeshift, which gives you 21 damage or 36 damage, depending on whether you're playing around a Ghost Quarter. But I don't think Izzet Charm's the best item for that slot. Similarly, I think that I would want another fetch land I think I had in the list. Um, it's possible Flooded grows better, and it's possible Temple of Mystery is better, but I'm a little hesitant of playing 5 come to play tap lands in this deck. Though Temple of Mystery is real hot. Similar, it's a little worse than in the Ad Nauseum deck, where you play the temples, and the way the deck is designed is there aren't really shuffle effects. So every time you scry, it just stays there, and you stack up like a pretty solid stack of scries and keep your percentages the way they should. Whereas this deck does shuffle back in, so it only kind of fixes your next draw, which is, I guess, like marginal percentages better, but it feels a little worse. Um, but the ability to have your lands do work in this deck, especially when you have to play so many lands, is pretty important. I also really like Telling Time, by the way, because it can find lands, and Peer Through Depths doesn't really find lands. So there's that. Explorer is not a powerful card, by the way, but it does ascribe to the cantrip plan, so that's why it's here. The other premise that GCB and Conrad had were play 4 cryptic, or was play 4 cryptics. I feel like I can skimp a bit because I wanted the Snapcasters, but looking back, I think I'd probably want another cryptic, maybe. I think the optimal build may be 2 Electrolyze, move an Izzet Charm to a land, and play 4 cryptics. The list I played against Jarvis is going to have an additional land, 2 Electrolyzes, and a Peer Through Depths instead of the 4th cryptic. Moving to the sideboard, I think that this specific list is a little overkill on non-cantripping cards. I think that things like Combust or like Spellskite even aren't super high impact. I did have a Spellskite in the other list that I kind of tuned a little bit, but it's not super exciting. Yeah, the other list that is lost to all time because of version 4. But different story on that. The Spellskite does give a little more hate against Infect, which is one of the scary matchups. So I wanted to play it because it's a little broader and covers a lot more ground than just the Combust, which I'm not the hugest fan of. Because again, I don't want one for ones. I want massive effects or cantrips. These are pretty big breaker effects to have, and I had a Boseiju because that's also a land, which is kind of a free roll of that effect, which is really important in this deck. Again, you need to make every card count because you are, as I always say, an 8 or 9 card combo deck. You need 8 or 9 cards dedicated to your combo to win, and you're trying to interact along the way. So every time you interact, you need to replace that interaction with another card, if possible. I also think you can like ignore Affinity almost, just assume you're dead to it. I don't think that matchup's winnable if your opponent's actually good at the game. But that might just be my experience with the old Spell Pierce Thoughtseize main deck Affinity deck, which is awesome. Moving along, we have Sweepers. Explosives is okay. That was one of the cards I cut from the deck. I didn't really see it as being super necessary. And I played another Obstinate Bailiff because that card is very powerful against Jund. I'm not sure if these should be Inferno Titans or an Inferno Titan and a Batterskull like GCB had, but I'm leaning towards Inferno Titan actually just after playing a little bit because Inferno Titan's a lot more of a game winner than Batterskull is, it seems like. Even though Batterskull's good, Inferno Titan's just really good. So that's my thoughts. I would definitely play 2 Inferno Titans, I guess, moving forward. But this deck is very powerful. I think people have gotten a lot better at building the Scapeshift deck in the last year, which is something that's really made my opinion of it keep going higher and higher as each event. If you look back at my older stuff, I definitely continuously say I hate this deck. This is always a spot check to see if it's playable, or I hate this deck. Why am I playing it? Yet I'm winning. Whereas now I think that it's actually reached a point where, with the cantrip plan, I think the deck's actually legitimately good.